Lalita and the Mountain of Doubts. Lalita lived in a small village surrounded by towering mountains. Every morning, she would gaze at the peaks, their snowy tips shimmering in the sunlight. The tallest of them was called Mount Courage, and it was said that anyone who climbed to its summit would find a treasure, not gold or jewels, but the realization of their truest potential. Lalita often dreamed of standing at the top of that mountain, feeling the sky stretch endlessly above her, but the thought of climbing it filled her with doubt. "I'm not strong enough," she would whisper to herself. "The journey is too hard, and what if I fail?" One day, a storm swept through the village, uprooting trees and filling the air with chaos. When it finally passed, Lalita stepped outside to find a strange sight. A glowing feather lying on the path. It shimmered with an otherworldly light, and when she touched it, a soft voice filled her mind. "Lalita," the voice said, "your heart holds more strength than you know. Take this feather and let it guide you to Mount Courage. The journey will be hard, but each step will teach you something new about yourself." Lalita hesitated, but the feather's gentle glow felt like a promise. She tucked it into her satchel and set off toward the mountain. The base of the mountain was shrouded in a thick forest. The trees were dark and twisted, their branches reaching like claws. As Lalita stepped into the shadows, fear gripped her heart. Every sound, a snapping twig, the rustle of leaves felt like a threat. "I can't do this," she thought, frozen in place. But then, she remembered the feather in her satchel. She held it tightly and whispered, "I'm afraid, but I'll take one step." And she did. Then another, and another. With each step, her fear began to fade, replaced by a quiet determination. When she emerged from the forest, she realized something powerful. Fear doesn't disappear, it shrinks when you face it. Further up the mountain, Lalita came to a sheer cliff. The path seemed to end, and the only way forward was to climb. She looked up at the towering rock face and felt the familiar weight of doubt pressing down on her. "What if I fall?" she whispered. "What if I'm not strong enough?" But then she noticed small ledges and handholds scattered across the cliff. They weren't obvious, but they were there. "Maybe the path isn't impossible," she thought. "Maybe I just need to find my way." With trembling hands, she began to climb. Each time she slipped or hesitated, she found another ledge to steady herself. By the time she reached the top, her muscles ached, but her heart felt light. Lalita smiled, realizing doubt fades when you focus on the small steps, instead of the whole climb. As Lalita approached the summit, dark clouds gathered above her. Rain poured down, and the wind howled, making each step treacherous. She wanted to stop, to turn back, but the feather in her satchel began to glow, brighter than ever. The voice returned. "You're almost there, Lalita. Do not surrender to the storm." "But I'm so tired," she said, tears mixing with the rain. "Then rest," the voice replied, "but do not quit. Strength is not about never stopping, it's about never giving up." Lalita found shelter under a rocky overhang and waited for the storm to ease. When it finally did, she stood again, drenched but determined. With renewed energy, she climbed the final stretch. When Lalita reached the summit, the view took her breath away. The world stretched out before her, endless and beautiful. The glowing feather lifted from her satchel and floated into the air, transforming into a golden light that surrounded her. "You found the treasure, Lalita," the voice said. "It isn't the mountain that gives you strength, it's the courage to climb it. Every fear you faced, every doubt you conquered, every step you took brought you here." Lalita stood tall, feeling a sense of peace and pride she had never known. She looked down at the village far below and smiled. The mountain hadn't defeated her, she had risen to meet it. When Lalita returned to the village, she was no longer the girl who doubted herself. She became an inspiration to others. sharing her story and encouraging them to face their own mountains, no matter how daunting they seemed. And whenever someone asked her how she found the strength to climb Mount Courage, she would smile and say, "It wasn't strength that got me there. It was the willingness to try, one step at a time." Good night, and may Lalita's courage remind you to face your own mountains with hope and determination.